Today's daf we're going to be learning is Nedarim daf Pehei. Today's daf is sponsored by Emma Rimberg in honor of the 70th birthday of her husband, Richard. May Hashem bless you with good health and happiness for many years to come to enjoy our family, learning, teaching, and inspiring us. Today's daf is sponsored by Laura Schefter in memory of her dear friend, Daniel Maurice Ulmer, Moshe ben Shmuel Basara, on the occasion of his third year at site. Daniel, your light lives on in the hearts of those who knew and loved you. Today's daf is sponsored by Leah Herzog in loving memory of her father, Dr. Rudolf Frisch, Ruben Abaye ben Mordechai Valea, on his 30th year at site. He was a brilliant man of pristine integrity who encouraged intellectual curiosity. Daddy, I miss and love you. Yehi zichro baruch. Okay, before we get started, I want to just talk about the next number of days. We were leading up to the Siyum. So the Siyum, on Monday, we will learn the second to last daf together as usual, a regular schedule. Monday night will be the Siyum on Zoom in Hebrew for those who want to join. And there will be Siyumim around Israel, both Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday, depending on where you live. All the details for the Siyumim around Israel are on the Hebrew side of the website. So there's the flag at the top. You can switch to the Hebrew side, and right on the homepage, you'll see a registration. Click there, and you can get all the details of the Siyumim that are going around in Israel. There are a few happening in America also, maybe in other places as well. So if you're part of a WhatsApp group with your community, see what's going on there. You can even initiate getting together for the Siyum if no one else has yet. And if you're not part of a community, you can click on the communities tab on our website and click there to join one of our local communities. If you're in Israel, there's actually an English Siyum happening, and that's happening on Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, there's no regular daf because we're going to have the Hebrew Siyum, the English Siyum on Zoom on Tuesday night. So Tuesday night, we're going to learn the last daf. That will only go up Tuesday night instead of Tuesday morning as it usually does the last daf. The whole Siyum is recorded, so all that will go up. We have a great program. That's on Zoom Tuesday night. Tuesday morning, if you happen to be in Israel and you want to come to Ranana, we're going to have a learning program, like an intro to Nazir, learning B'chavruta at my home. So the details there are also on the registration. So you're also invited to that as well. Okay, so lots of things going on. I know there's definitely some Siyums. There's in Teaneck, there's Chamutal, Rabbanit Chamutal, who was on Daf Mishalahen, who's now in America. She's speaking at the Siyum in Teaneck, which is great. And Long Island group is getting together, a bunch of the other groups as well. Okay, let's get started. Yesterday, I have a study guide. Didn't manage to translate it. I started, but it was too much work. Hard to translate these kind of dapim. But anyway, I will follow along with you. Even if your Hebrew's not good, I think helping the chart just helps kind of organize the structure. So to review from where we ended off yesterday, we had two parts of the Mishna, the second part of the Mishna, the two parts of the second part. It said that if somebody forbids Kohanim or Leviim from benefiting from me, and I have Truma in my house or Maser in my house to go to the Kohen and the Levi, any one of those Kohanim can come in and take, which the Gemara said seems to infer that basically it's not mine, right? Because if it was mine, they wouldn't be able to benefit. So what does it mean it's not mine? Of course, the Truma Maser is not mine. However, there's this debate about whether the fact that I can choose who to give it to means that that's called Tovat Hana'ah, that basically I can choose who to give it to, which then makes basically a favor, like as if I did a favor for someone else. And then the question is, does that have monetary value? So if you say that it has monetary value, then basically that means if the Kohanim and Leviim can't benefit from me and they come and take the Truma Mascho, that's financial value. Because they're benefiting from me, they shouldn't be able to do that. So it must be the fact that they're allowed to take from me must be that I have no rights to the Truma Maser. And basically, in the words of the Gemara, Tovat Hana'ah is not Mamon. Tovat Hana'ah, the fact that I have rights to decide who to give it to, has no monetary value, because if it had monetary value, the Kohanim and Leviim would not be able to take it from me if I forbade them to benefit from me. You follow? If it's mine, in other words, basically, Tovat Hana'ah Mamon, if Tovat Hana'ah has monetary value, that means it belongs to me. And then once it belongs to me, they shouldn't be able to get it, but yet they can. So there you see. So Tovat Hana'ah must not be Mamon. The second line of the Mishnah was, Kohanim elu Leviim elu nehenim li. If I pinpoint a few of you that are Kohanim and Leviim won't benefit from me, but others can, then others can take from me, but those people can't. Now, why can't they? If we just said a minute ago, Tovat Hana'ah is not Mamon, basically the Truma Maser, the Maser that's in my possession, theoretically doesn't belong to me at all. it has like a title of Kohen, Levi on it. It happens to be in my house, but it's not really mine. So if it's not really mine, then why the people who are forbidden to benefit from me can't access it? They should be able to access it. Why can't they? It must be because this line seems to indicate Tovat Hana'ah is mamon. The fact that I can choose who to give it to gives that financial value. Once it has financial value, I'm the owner of it. Therefore, if you're a Kohen who I specify can't benefit from me, you can't come and take it. So these two sentences, according to right now the way the Gemara understands them, seem to contradict each other. Rav Hoshaya basically said, easy answer. Okay, what does Rav Hoshaya say? Not exactly easy answer, but one line matches Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The second line matches Rebbe's opinion. What's the machloket? Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. This is where we ended yesterday with this machloket. If you hagonev tivlo shel chavero va'achalo, you steal my pile of untithed produce and you eat it. Now you have to return me the value. But what's the value, right? If the pile was still there, you just return me the whole pile. But if you're only returning the value, so the value, you would generally return me what you caused me a financial loss. So according to Rebbe, what's my financial loss, right? Mishalem lo demei tivlo, the entire thing. According to Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, eno mishalem ela demei chulin shebo. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda says, what are you talking about? That pile of untithed produce was made up of produce that was going to end up being mine, and produce that was going to go to Levi, and produce that was going to go to the Kohen. And not all of it is actually mine. So basically, according to Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, he didn't cause me a financial loss of 100% of the pile. He only caused me a financial loss of a certain percentage of the pile. Yeah, the majority, more than the majority, but not the whole thing. So therefore, he doesn't have to give me everything. Now, Rav Hoshaya says, isn't this the machloket? Tovat hana'ah mamon or tovat hana'ah ena mamon? How so? Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda says, all the part that I was supposed to take from there, that to be truma and maaser, is basically worth zero. Okay, that's what he's saying. Why is it worth zero to me? Well, it's worth tovat hana'ah. I can choose who I want to give it to. Isn't that worth something? No, apparently Rabbi Yosef doesn't think that. So Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda must hold tovat hana'ah has no financial value. Otherwise, the robber would have to pay me back the value of it, and he doesn't. So obviously that stuff is worth nothing to me. And Rebbe, who says he has to pay back, according to most opinions, the whole thing, is because the fact that I can choose who to give it to has value to me. Okay. Now, some people say that he just returns the value of what you value this tovat hana'ah as. But you could also say maybe the whole thing, because as soon as this truma maaser has value to me, I become the owner of it because I can choose who I want to give it to. If I'm the owner of it, and I haven't given it away to anyone yet, then he has to pay me back the entire value. So basically, according to Rebbe, I get back presumably the whole value because tovat hana'ah is worth something financially, right? It has financial value. So now it lines up perfectly well. We said the Reisha, and this is why the chart is helpful. The Reisha, we said, they could come take it. Why can they come take it? Because it's not mine. It's tovat hana'ah, is in mamon. Just like Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda says, if someone steals from me, I don't get back the whole thing because it's not mine. But Rebbe says you get back the whole value because tovat hana'ah is mamon, and that matches the Kohanim and Levite that I wouldn't allow to benefit from me can't take truma maaser from me because it has value to me. And therefore, by them taking it, they're benefiting from me, and they can't because I took a vow that they can't benefit from me. So that's Rav Hoshaya. That's what we got right now. What we're going to see today, and this is why the chart is important, you can see the structure very well. The first thing we're going to do is reject Rav Hoshaya and say, you misunderstood the machloket between Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and the rabbis. The real debate is about something else. Okay, and they're going to actually say, everyone agrees that tovat hana'ah has no value, both Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and Rebbe, but there's a different reason why they argue. Okay, so then you're going to have to explain really the rabbis, because if you say tovat hana'ah is not mamon, then Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda is very clear. It's the other opinion that's not going to work so well. Then they're going to reject that. They're going to say, no, that's not the machloket. That doesn't make any sense. Then they're going to have a second rejection. So it's a rejection of the rejection. Then they're going to have a second rejection of Rav Hoshaya and say, this is really what the machloket is about, which again has nothing to do with our Mishna and is tovat hana'ah mamon or is it not? That's not the machloket between them. And then we're going to be left with, okay, if we can't say, like Rav Hoshaya suggested, this is, one line is Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, one line is Rebbe, how do we explain the Mishnah? So that's the structure of where we're going till we get to our next Mishnah. So we're starting inside from the third line of our Gemara. So the Gemara says, Lo. Everyone agrees, as I told you, that Tovat Hana'ah, in other words, Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and Rebbe are not arguing about what you thought they were arguing about. They both agree that if I get to choose who this Kohen is, even though maybe I'm doing them a favor, that doesn't have a monetary value to it. So what's the machloket between them? Why does Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda say that? Here, let's just pull it up again. Sorry. Why does Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda say that this robber only gives me the value of the chulin? And Rebbe says, what do you mean he pays you the entire value? What's the machloket? Now remember, we're not talking about that I had something labeled Truma and Maaser in my house. And the robber stole that pile of Truma and Maaser. The robber stole a pile of untithed produce. So until now, we've been saying untithed produce is made up of stuff that's going to end up mine and stuff that's going to end up Truma and Maaser. And that's why Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda simply says, well, if Tovat Hana'ah is not money, and some of this stuff, therefore, is never going to be mine, even though I haven't tithed it yet, it's as if it's tithed, and it's not a financial loss for me. So that's what we're going to read right now. We're going to say, so nobody thinks it has financial value. Okay, they don't even explain this further, but that's why it's charted out here to make you understand it better, which is, here we have a case of gifts that were not yet taken out of the pile, right? We have an untithed pile. So the question is, do we view this as if it was tithed, which is basically what we've been saying until now, right? No one even raised the issue that maybe not, but that's what we're going to say right now. This is untithed produce, which means that right now it's not called Truma, Maaser, and Chulin. Right now it's just one big pile of Teva. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, who says he doesn't have to return to you the value of the Truma and the Maaser, is because he holds that even though I haven't yet, I haven't yet taken the Truma Maaser and designated them out. And as we saw yesterday, right, there's likolem shame, we have to give them a name, and then laflish, and then separate them. Well, if you haven't done that yet, it's as if you did it. When we look at this pile of untithed produce, it's like an X-ray machine, right? We see right through it. It's not one pile of all this produce that belongs to me. It's divided into parts, since ultimately I'm going to separate the tithes. So it's already as if it's split. Rebbe, who says if you steal that pile of tevel, you have to return the entire thing, holds that matznot shelo hormu kilo hormu dami. But this is just a pile of produce. Yeah, it's true. I'm supposed to take Truma and Maaser from it, but I haven't yet. We don't view it as if it's the sum is equal to the parts. It's not split up into parts yet until I actually split it up into parts. So therefore, he says the ganav, the thief, has to return the entire value. Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable. Except the Gemara doesn't like this. The Gemara is going to say, if you say that there's no value to who I choose to give this to or not, then mali hormu, mali lo hormu. Then really, Rebbe makes no sense. Because if really the zero value, we don't put any financial value to what I'm about to give to somebody else, then why on earth would Rebbe say that the ganav has to return me the entire pile? Why would we say matznot shelo hormu is if lo hormu? Because what does a ganav have to return to me? Okay. If you steal something, you have to return the object. But in this case, he ate it. So there's no object to return. So he has to return the value. Now, what is value? When we figure out value, it's what I lost. What did I lose? Well, in the end, a certain percentage was going to go to the Kohen and the Levite. So even if, right, because we say I have no benefit for that certain percentage, why not? Because Tovat Hana'ah is not mamon according to this interpretation, then that's not a loss for me because ultimately I would have given it away. It wouldn't have been worth any money to me. So why should the robber have to reimburse me for something that I actually didn't lose out on? So Rebbe makes no sense according to that interpretation, in which case, okay, like I said, we started with this contradiction in the Mishnah. We moved to Rav Hoshaya, who said one is Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, one is the rabbis. One is Rebbe. That's their machloket, exactly the same. Is Tovat Hana'ah mamon or is it not? We said, no, that's not their machloket. Their machloket is a pile of tevel viewed as Truma, Maaser, Chulin, or is a pile of tevel viewed as one big pile? To which we say, even if you say it's one big pile, still it doesn't explain Rebbe because the robber still shouldn't have to return you because he didn't cause you any loss. Because anyway, we're going to give that to the Kohen and the Levite. So that didn't really work. Ella, now we're going to say, here's the real debate between Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, and Rebbe, which again is going to have nothing to do with our Mishna. Okay, this is again a rejection of Rav Hoshaya. So now, even though it doesn't say so in the Gemara, the Ran explains this. This is kind of like two tracks. We don't know if Tovat Hana is Mamon or not. Okay, now again, let's just make it very clear before we move on. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda works more simply. Okay, he's easier to understand that you only get back the chulin if you say that Tovat Hana is not Mamon. Because again, what does it mean Tovat Hana is not Mamon? I'm just going to keep repeating this because I know it's a little bit confusing to get in your head. What it means is that when I have this pile of tevel, it's made up of truma maser. Truma and maser are worth 0 to me because Tovat Hana is not Mamon. And that's why I only get back the rest of it. Rebbe works much better if you say Tovat Hana is Mamon, because that's why the thief has to return you the whole thing, because that part that's supposed to go to the Kohen Levi is still really yours, okay? Because you can get benefit from it, and that benefit is valued as a financial value. So now the Gemara is going to say the following, okay? And now we're going to explain Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and the rabbis in a different way. And each one we're going to explain. We're going to go either you're going to say Tovat Hana is not Mamon, and then you're going to have to explain the rabbis, or you're going to say Tovat Hana is Mamon, and then you're going to have to explain Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. So here goes. Ela hainu tama de Rebbe, kansuha Rabbanan leganav ki hechi de lo ligno. Let's explain Rebbe. And as again, Rebbe makes perfect sense if you say Tovat Hana is value. That's why you have to get the whole thing. But what if you say it's not Mamon? So if you basically say, this truma maser and this pile of tevel, right? We already rejected the whole thing. You didn't take truma maser. It's as if it's not there yet. No, we view it as if it's made up of chulin, truma, and maser. The truma and maser have 0 value to me. So now we have to explain, because we're going with Tovat Hana is not mamon. It's not worth anything. The fact that I can choose who to give it to. So now, why does the thief have to return me the whole value? He says very simply, the rabbis wanted to penalize robbers. This is just a disincentive clause. If we say to the ganav, if you steal tevel, you only have to pay back, 88% or something. Well, then you'll go steal again because, what's the big deal? So you'll only pay, you'll gain. He'll basically gain the 12%. Whatever was supposed to go to the Kohen and the Levi, he's going to now gain, or more than that. I didn't do the calculation right. But right, it's 10%, right? No, actually it is right, right? Because if you're talking about just Truma and Maser Rishon, it's 88. So now he's going to gain. We don't want the robber to gain. So that's why he says, if you go nev tevel, mishalem lo demeitiv lo, you have to pay the whole value, because what? The ganav's going to end up winning out. There's 2 parts to when a ganav returns money. It's number one, to give you what you lost. So it's true. It's not really a loss for you. But it doesn't matter. If the ganav ends up winning, they're going to be incentivized to steal again. So therefore, we're going to penalize the ganav. That's one side. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. Now we have to explain Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, if you say the opposite. If you go with Tovat Hana is Mamon, then the Rebbe makes perfect sense because there's value to the Truma Maser. It's still yours. Therefore, the Ganav has to return it. So why does Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda say he doesn't need to return it? So he answers a very interesting answer. Kansu Rabbanan Abaye ki hechi de lo lishay litivle. It's your fault, the owner of the produce, for not dealing with your tevel. So basically, even though you'll have value to deciding who to give it to, but this guy stole it before you separated the tithes. Well, that's your fault for not separating the tithes. And therefore, if you had separated your tithes, then you would have gotten the value of it, because you'd have Tovat Hana, I can give this to the Kohen. Even now, you really could have, it's valued at yours. However, even though it's yours, the Ganav doesn't have to reimburse you because it was your fault for leaving it as tevel. It's an interesting answer, right? Kind of a little bit surprising, but that's what he says. So each one, again, the Ran adds all these words to this, which is that the line about the knas of Rebbe is if you go with the track that Tovat Hana is not Mamon, the one that was hard to explain according to Rebbe, and if you go with the other track of Tovat Hana is Mamon, then we have to explain Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and he's going to say it was a penalty specifically to penalize the person who didn't take the tevel, the owner of the property. So that now, all that was doing was explaining what the machloket Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi was, and saying that the basis for the machloket has nothing to do with is Tovan Hana Mamon or is it not Mamon? It's not like they split on one holds this, one holds that, and then you can say the Mishna, one line is like Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, one line is like Rabbi. No, we've rejected that whole way of thinking. So now what we're left with is to explain the Mishnah. So we started off by saying, why does the Mishnah in the first part say that if I say no Kohanim Levite can benefit from me, then they can come anyway, which again seemed to imply it's not my produce at all, and therefore Tovan Hana we would say is not Mamon, versus the Seifa, when I specified individual Kohanim or Leviim, then they can't come and take from me because it seems like they'd be benefiting from me if they took the Truma Maser, which seems to imply there is a monetary value for me. It's still mine. Tovan Hana is Mamon. So Rava is going to explain really the Reisha in a different way in order to have this all make sense. Okay, it's hard to get this on one screen. Here. Okay, so now Rava is going to say the following, and with this we're going to end our sugya. Rava Amal, Shani Truma, Dahainu Tama Dietlu al Korcho. What's the reason in the first case why the Kohanim and Leviim, I said no Kohanim and Leviim from benefit from me. And then we say the Kohanim and Leviim can come and take from me. Why is that? Because what's the story with Truma? Truma can only be eaten by Kohen. Remember, if I'm a non-Kohen, I can't eat Truma. Maser is a little trickier, okay? Maser goes to the Levi, and there's actually a debate about whether a regular person, like me, I'm not a Levi, whether I can eat the Maser or not. This sugya obviously sides with the opinion that people who aren't Levites can't eat the Maser, okay? So now, since Truma, and presumably Maser, it doesn't say this, but since the Mishna is talking about Truma and Maser, since they can only be eaten by the Kohanim. So now I have this pile of Tevel in my house. I have Truma now. We're not talking about the Tevel case. I have Truma in my house. I've separated the Truma and Maser, and I've forbidden all Kohanim and Leviim from benefiting from me. Now, what can I do with that Truma? I can actually do nothing with it because I can't eat it. It's forbidden to me to eat, okay? I can't give it to anyone because why? I forbade everyone from benefiting from me, all the Kohanim and Levites. Since I can't now, what was the whole thing? Rava holds, this is important to know, that the fact that I can choose who to give it to in general is worth money. So generally, and that explains the seifa basically. That's why if I say you and you can't come and take it from me because it's mine and it has value for me who I get to give it to. So therefore, if I were to give it to you, that's financial value. You'll be benefiting from me. But what's the difference between the Reisha and the Seifa? This is actually very obvious. Since Truma can only go to the Kohen, I forbade it to all of them, right? None of them can get it from me. That means I can't choose who to give it to. There's no Tovat Hana'ah here because I can't choose. If you're a Kohen, I can't decide to give it to you because I forbade you from benefiting from me. Therefore, Shavya Afra Ba'alma. It's like dust of the earth. Meaning, okay, let's go back to what we talked about yesterday, the Leket Shechan Peah are ownerless, right? And therefore, if you're forbidden to benefit from everyone, you can still take that. Likewise, the Kohanim in the first part of the Mishnah here are allowed to come take this produce because even though Tovan Hana'ah is Mamon, in this case, there is no option of Tovan Hana'ah. I can't choose who I want to give it to because then you'd be benefiting from me. And then it would be forbidden. And since I can't eat it myself, it's useless for me. So I basically automatically make it ownerless because it's useless. Okay, they even say, right, it's like dust of the earth. It sounds like when we do kol chamir on Pesach, and we say, right, all the chametz is hefker, like afradara. So this is useless to me. I have nothing to do with it, in which case you can come take it if you're a Kohen because you're not benefiting from me. You're taking from something that's ownerless. So that's how he explains the difference between the Reisha and the Seifa. Really, Tovan Hana'ah is valued at something, and that's why the second part makes perfect sense. If I said you and you, but not you, who I designated can't benefit from me, you can't have it because that would be benefit. Because I gain something from that, and that gain of you now owe me something is worth money. That's according to this opinion that right, Rav is saying, we all agree with that. And then the issue is only in the case where I can't choose who to give it to, well, then there's no Tovat Hana'ah basically, and it's basically ownerless because I have nothing I could do with it. I can't eat it myself. and therefore it's worth nothing. So it's basically property it's stuff that's in my property, but for my purposes, it's worth 0. That's why the Reisha, they can come and take it. Okay, that was a bit complicated, but what we really did was actually pretty simple. We had the Mishnah. We thought in the beginning that it meant 2 different approaches. That's how Rav Hoshaya understood it then. He explained, oh yeah, don't worry. It's 2 different approaches, 2 different rabbis. He brought a Tosefta, Breita, to prove that those 2 different rabbis hold what he was suggesting they held. The Gemara rejected it on 2 counts. First suggested, no, that's not the machloket, it's something else. They rejected that understanding. Then they said, no, it's this one. This is the machloket between them, which again had nothing to do with, it didn't divide into Tovat Hana is Mamon, Tovat Hana is not Mamon. And then we said, okay, well, then we're stuck with our question. And Rav explained, these are 2 different cases, and the relevance of Tovat Hana being Mamon is not relevant for the first part of our Mishnah. Okay, I see someone asking where to find the study sheet. So just in case people don't know, first of all, someone can put it in the chat for the people in the Zoom. And also on the website, underneath where the YouTube is, and then the podcast, if you look on today's daf post, underneath that, there's a button that says for today's study guide. Okay, it's a study guide, it says. I think that's what it says there, but there's a button underneath where you can also find the daf, and you can also, in Safari, and you can also find the study guide. And if you're using the podcast, by the way, the details are in the podcast. There's details of every podcast, and in there is a link to get to the study guide. Also in YouTube, there's a link in the details, and you can get to it from there. Okay. Now we're up to a new Mishnah. Konam she'eni oseh al pi Abba. I vow that I'm not going to let my father benefit from me at all. Okay. Now we're back to women's vows and what the husband can nullify or not. Right, this vow about the Kohanim and Levim had nothing to do with that. It just came up because of the Leket Shechan Pe'ah, but really had nothing to do with that. Now, okay, thank you for telling me. It says download study guide on the website. Konam she'eni oseh al pi Abba. I say my father will not be able to benefit from me at all, or al pi avicha, or my husband's father, my father-in-law, v'al pi achi, or my brother, v'al pi achicha, or my husband's brother. These are not inoi nefesh, because she has lots of other people in the world she can benefit from. Oh, I'm sorry. She's not letting them benefit from her. That's clearly not inoi nefesh for her, right? And it's not beino lebeina. It doesn't cause tension. Okay, you might say maybe if she forbids the father-in-law, but it's not direct tension between the husband and wife, and therefore eino yachol la'afil. He has no rights to nullify any of those vows. However, she'eni, and I'll just translate the words konam she'eni oseh. What this means, and you might remember this from Ketubot if you learn Ketubot with us, which is if you say what I produce, okay, which could be your salary, it could be, your weaving, your whatever you create, anything you create, your food you make, okay, anything that you make, which is either your set money or objects, that will be forbidden to my father. It'll be forbidden to my brother, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, okay, all those. You can't nullify them. But if she says she'eni oseh al picha, she says, I'm nullifying, you can't benefit from anything I create to her husband, then, now, we're going to have 3 opinions here. Okay, we can bring up the chart again because it's always helpful to have charts. 3 opinions here, what happens to this vow. Can he nullify it? Does he need to nullify it? Why, if he can nullify, what's he nullifying? So Tanakama says, Eino tzarich la'afil. He doesn't need to nullify this. Why is that? Let's go back to Masechet Ketubot. If you remember, a husband has rights to anything his wife produces, right? Other than there's certain exceptions, we'll talk about it soon. And basically in return, okay, and some people view this as a benefit for the wife, it's really done to protect the woman. Not all women can produce enough for them to eat. So what do? They give their salary to the husband, and the husband's responsible to feed them. So it actually benefits the woman because she now has enough sustenance to live on, okay? Obviously, if she makes more money, then, right, that's a question, and we'll get to that in a minute. But there are some people who think it's actually protect the husband, but there's a debate about it. I'm not going to get into all that right now. So the first opinion is he can't nullify it because it's an irrelevant vow. She has no rights to do anything with her maaseh yadayim. They're owned by her husband, basically. It's what we call mishuabadim. They're subjugated to him. Basically, he has direct rights to them. So she can't say you can't have them. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yafel Shema Ta'adif Alav Yoter Min HaRa'oi. According to Rabbi Akiva, he only gets the basic. There's a basic amount in Ketubot. We saw it, exactly the amount that the average amount a woman produces. Anything beyond that will go to the husband. So therefore, nullify the vow because it will apply to any extras that she doesn't have to give him that aren't designated for him right away. And therefore, nullify the vow so that you can benefit from that as well, right? Otherwise, anything she makes beyond that, he won't be able to benefit from it all. And that will be beinola beinat. That'll be, a problem because there'll be certain things, she'll make a blanket and it's beyond what she was supposed to produce that week, and he won't be able to use it. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuchi Omer Yafel Shema Yigarshena v'tiyeh Tzuala. He doesn't seem to be concerned about this hadafa, probably because he thinks the hadafa belongs to the husband as well, and therefore there's no need lahafel to nullify it. But he says, what if the husband divorces her and wants to remarry her again? So if he divorces her, what will happen? So it's true, while they're married, all of her stuff is designated to the husband, and she has no rights to say you can't benefit from this. But as soon as he divorces her, anything she produces will be forbidden. That will basically prevent him from being able to marry her again. Because remember, if he remarries her, he can't nullify any previous vows, even though he was married to her at the time, it doesn't matter. So basically, it'll preclude it from being able to remarry her. So therefore, nullify it now, just in case that were to happen, okay, in case you were to divorce her. This is the opinion we're going to focus on in the Gemara, because Amar Shmuel, the first line of the Gemara is, Halacha ke Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Shmuel paskins like this third opinion. Comes the Gemara and says, wait a minute. Now, if you remember from the beginning of our Masechet, we made a lot of comparisons to Hekdesh, designating something as sanctified, to Neder, designating something as forbidden. It's very similar. Right? Hekdesh means it belongs to God. Neder means it's going to be forbidden to whoever. Okay, so they're now going to compare this to laws of Hekdesh. Lememra, are you trying to say to Kasavar Shmuel that Shmuel holds, which is then going to raise contradiction because Shmuel doesn't seem to hold that, the Adam Makdish Davar Shelo Ba'al Olam. A person can sanctify something that's not yet in this world. Okay, in general, how does it work with sanctification? I can generally sanctify only something that I own, right? And I own would have to mean also that I own it and it's in it's here, it's in the world, not something I will at some future point own. What about a neder? So if she takes this vow, what's the problem here? What we're saying is the vow, he can nullify the vow because the vow will kick in, right? Basically, it's a relevant vow now because maybe he'll divorce her, right? The fact that he's going to divorce her is definitely davar shelo ba'al olam. We don't even know if it will happen or not. Who knows, right? What are the chances are they're going to get divorced? I don't know what the percentages are these days of divorce. Certainly in those days, it was much less. So, it's an unknown. How could he possibly nullify this neder? And we say the neder is valid now in the event that she'll get divorced. How could she forbid something shelo ba'al olam, that the potential for it to happen isn't even existing? And Shmuel seems to say, right, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, nullify this because if he divorces her, it will come into play. Now, how do we know that Shmuel doesn't hold that? Shmuel doesn't hold this, that you can sanctify something shelo ba'al olam. So now we're going to quote laws of sanctity. Ureminhi. There's a contradiction because it says actually I didn't check if it's a Mishna or a Breita, but it says in Masechet Ketubot, Hamakdish ma'aseh yidei ishto. Again, we're back to ma'aseh yadayim of the woman. If somebody sanctifies, now we're moving out of the world of neder, right, vowing against something, to sanctifying. He says, what you produce will be sanctified. Harezo osava ochelet. She can continue, okay, they say that this isn't a case where we're now in Abaye. We basically say, this must be a case where, okay, there's a whole different thing, which is she can say, I'm not going to take your mazonot and, I'm going to keep my salary, or it means, or it's a case where he wasn't supporting her for some reason. And if he's not supporting her, then she doesn't have to give him the maseh yadayim. So if in that case, he says, whatever you produce is going to be sanctified, she can produce whatever she wants and eat. In other words, turn it into money, go sell it, eat. Okay, no problem, because the sanctity didn't apply. Hamotal, the extra, but what about the extra beyond what, in other words, Why does it not apply? Because she needs to eat. He's not feeding her. She needs basic sustenance. What about beyond the basic? So here there's a machloket. Rabbi Meir Omer hekdesh. He says it actually is sanctified. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar Omer chulin. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar says no. Any extra she produces, also he can't sanctify. Okay, the first part he can't sanctify because how could he sanctify something and prevent her from eating? Okay, but any extra, that's because it's davar shelo ba'lo olam. It's not yet in existence. She hasn't made her base salary that now we're already talking about the motar. It's davar shelo ba'lo olam. Now, what does this have to do with Shmuel? This is Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar, not to be confused with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in our Mishnah was the one who said we have to worry, maybe he'll divorce her. And Shmuel held like it. Well, guess what Shmuel holds here? Amar Shmuel, halacha ke Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar. Shmuel Paskins like Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar here. Basically saying, you can't sanctify something that's not yet in existence, her motar, the extra. So Alma, from there you can infer. So now we have this contradiction. In our sugya, Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who says the neder, she can basically forbid something in the future potential that we don't even know is going to happen. But in the case of sanctification, hekadesh, the husband can't sanctify her potential, what she makes beyond her salary, because that's davar shelo ba'lo olam. So now what we're going to have is three potential answers. The first one is introduced with the words v'chi tema. V'chi tema is a word, as soon as you see these two words, you know that what they're going to say is v'chi tema literally means, and if you want to say, or when you want to say, it's always going to be rejected. If you want to suggest this, I'm going to reject it immediately. So you know already, and the Gemara already knows. In other words, the person who's saying it knows. They're kind of just throwing out ideas, but no, they're going to say, I'm going to tell you this, but I'm going to show you why this is not a good answer. And then we're going to have two other answers. So the structure is like this. The first one will be introduced and immediately rejected by whoever brought it. It's actually brought up by the Stam Gemara, not by anyone in particular. Then we're going to have Rav Yosef's answer, and Abaye is going to reject it, which we seem to have seen a lot in the last few days. Abaye, who is a student of Rav Yosef, often questions his rabbi. And then we're going to see the answer of Rav Huna to Rav Yehoshua, which the Gemara is going to start raising questions against, and then we'll leave the answers for tomorrow. So here goes. B'chi tema, if you want to say, and that's again, we have to deal with Shmuel in our Mishnah says, Adam oser davar, you can, in a neder, forbid something that's not yet in existence. Maybe she'll get divorced. And then against the Shmuel, who held like Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar, in the case of hekdesh, that the husband can't sanctify her stuff that's not yet in existence, the motar, the extra. So let's see the option they're going to reject immediately. Ki ka'amar, and here I want to show you the chart again because it'll help you. Ki ka'amar halachak Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri al ha'adafahu de ka'amar. Maybe you'll say that what happens here? Tanakama says, "En yosal picha," you don't even need to nullify because it's already designated to the husband. Rabbi Akiva says nullify because of the hadafa, the extra. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri doesn't agree with Rabbi Akiva about the extra, right? He disagrees on two things. Number one, he says it's not the extra. The extra is considered his as well. Number two, I'll give you a different reason, though, why I don't agree with Tanakama, because that's really Tanakama who thinks the hadafa is not an option either. I don't agree with either of those because actually there's a different reason why he can be made fair, because of this potential maybe he'll divorce her. And that's the problem of shelo ba'lo olam. It's not in existence. So now they say maybe what he meant is, I agree with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that he doesn't agree with Rabbi Akiva about the issue of hadafa, that the extra she makes, the neder isn't valid on that stuff. That's what they're suggesting. But this isn't a good suggestion because there's three better things Shmuel could have said if that was his whole issue. And what they're suggesting is maybe Shmuel doesn't agree with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's words, Yafer Shema Yigarshena. But what he agrees with is that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri doesn't agree with Rabbi Akiva. So if that was the case, either lema, halakha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri b'hadafa, you should have been more particular and said, I hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri just regarding the issue of hadafa, that hadafa, actually the husband has rights too. Or inami halakha Tanakama. Well, that's exactly Tanakama's opinion. So he should have just said, I hold like Tanakama, who says you can't nullify this vow because, right, you can't do it because of what's in the future. And you can't do it on a hadafa because he disagrees with Rabbi Akiva about it. Or inami and halakha Rabbi Akiva. Or he should have said, I don't hold like Rabbi Akiva. So all those would have been a much better way to say it if that's what he really meant. So Obviously, that's not really what he meant. Ela Amar Rav Yosef. So now Rav Yosef is going to distinguish between hekdesh and neder. Even though I started this year by saying we often we compare them, he's going to say, for this issue, there's a difference. Hekdesh, you can't do it to davar shelo ba'al olam, and neder, you can. Why is that? Shani konamot, and this goes back to something we've said a few times about how neder works. Ho'il ba'adam oser perot chavero alav. Since I can basically say your stuff is forbidden to me. Now, remember the world of hekdesh. What can I sanctify? Only something that belongs to me. I can't sanctify something that I can't say your car is sanctified to God. I can't do that. That's your car. I have no rights to it. But I can say your car is forbidden to me. I won't go ever in your car. That's allowed. So that means that I have rights to have a neder on things that are distanced from me more, right? Therefore, just like I can forbid your fruits to me, I can also forbid something that's not yet in existence in the world. Sounds reasonable, but Abaye says, no. Bad comparison. Why? Because remember, what are the rules? I've said this a few times. I can forbid something of mine to you. I can forbid something of yours to me, but what can't I do? I can't forbid something of yours to somebody else. And what he's going to say is that's more similar to davar shelo ba'al olam. So let's see why. So Amar Abaye, Bishlama adam oser perot chavero alav. Yes, I can forbid your fruits to me. Sharei adam oser perotav chavero. Why can I forbid your fruits to me? What's my right to access your fruits to me? Well, it's because I can forbid my fruits to you. Okay, those are similar. But Ella, you're going to say from there, yes, sur davar shelo ba'al olam al chavero. What is she trying to do here? She's trying to say my fruits, in the event that you divorce me, will be forbidden to her husband. That's already two removed. That's saying something that's not here, something of someone else's, which is equal in this comparison of Rav Yosef to something of someone else's, right? Something that's not yet in existence is like something of someone else's, to a third party. Because I'm not forbidding it to myself. I'm not saying in the event that you divorce me, then it will be. No, I'm saying something of someone else's, which isn't really someone else's, it's hers, but it's hers, shelo ba'al olam, which is like someone else's, is forbidden to her husband. That's not allowed. I can't forbid someone else's stuff to a third person. So just like that, I can't forbid something shelo ba'al olam on somebody else. So therefore, your comparison doesn't work. So we reject Rav Yosef's answer. So now we get to the last answer. Ela amar Rav Huna bered Rav Yehoshua be'omeret yikadshu yadai la'osehen. You might remember this from the laws of, okay, first of all, by the way, I see you're saying ishto kegufo, but again, she's doing it once they're divorced. That's the whole thing. This is going to apply once they're divorced. It's no longer. And also here, ishto kegufo doesn't really work because it's not exactly the same. Anyway, now we're going to go back to ketubah. What did we learn in ketubah? We said the same answer there, which is she's not forbidding. This isn't davar shelo ba'al olam, her maaseh yadayim, that she'll produce when she's divorced. Why? Because she's saying yikadshu yadai la'osehen. And there's a whole debate. We saw this then. Does she actually have to say this wording? Or even if she doesn't say this wording, this is really what she means. When she says what I produce, she's really talking about my hands. My hands are in this world. So even though she's talking about some future time, she's saying my hands will be sanctified, meaning what my hands produce will be forbidden, and my hands are in this world. So she's actually talking about something in existence because it's relating more to her hands rather than what I produce. What I produce really means what my hands can do. So therefore, that's already in this world. And then it basically says this isn't even in the category of davar shelo ba'al olam. Now the Gemara has some issues with this, as you can imagine. So they say, okay, number one, even her hands are subjugated to her husband, because if you're going to say her hands are what she produces, whatever she produces, subjugated to her husband. So they say, no, as we saw before, she says, no, my hands in the event that you divorce me. So it still is talking about the future, which is why the Gemara is going to say, okay, that doesn't really help us. It's true the hands are in the world, but the divorce hasn't happened yet. So he hasn't yet divorced her. So why should this work? In other words, they tried to get around it by saying it's not really davar shelo ba'al olam because it's talking about her hands. But then the Gemara says, okay, so number one, if it's her hands, then it's forbidden now, and that can't be because even her hands are subjugated to her husband, what her hands produce. So then they say, well, it's when she divorces him, when he divorces her. But if it's talking about some future point, again, how could that be effective? It's still not talking about the here and now. So we're left with a question right now. Well, we'll see what the Gemara does tomorrow to resolve it. So this section of the Gemara, just to quickly review, we had the Mishnah. We had these three opinions about when she says, my Maaseh Yadayim are forbidden to my husband. Does it apply? And if it does, can she be mayfared in some way, right? Even if it doesn't apply now, it might apply to either Hadafa or to some future point. Shmuel Paskins, like the one about the future, maybe he'll divorce her. The Gemara compares that to Hekdesh, where Shmuel there says you can't be Makdish Davar Shelo Olam. How could you do it by Neder? We saw this possible understanding. Maybe he didn't really fully Paskin like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, but the Gemara immediately rejected it. We have Rav Yosef, who tried to distinguish Hekdesh and Neder. Maybe they're two different things. Abaye didn't like his comparison. He said, from your comparison, you get to the conclusion this doesn't work. And now we have Rav Huna, Rav Yehoshua, who said that really it's not Davar Shelo Olam at all, because it's talking about our hands, which are in the here and now. To which they ask some questions. Well, if it's in the here and now, it still shouldn't work. And if it's in the here and now and it's talking about the future, it's still talking about the future. So why does that work? So we're left with that question, and we'll get back to you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.